All right, and we're live. Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of Notable Quotables, your new favorite podcast. Today with me, I have a good friend and mentor, Ravi Walsh. Ravi, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Octavius.
Thank you. Do you want to give everybody a little introduction about yourself?
I am a healer and a coach. That's my role here in Ithaca, New York, where I've been for the past, 14 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I'm a lover of yoga and meditation. I've been practicing meditation for the past 35 years with a divine teacher named Guru Mai Chidvilasananda, who resides just 3.5 hours south of me down in South Fallsburg, New York. And that'll do it.
Yeah. Awesome. I will definitely vouch for you in terms of a healer and a spiritual leader. You really helped me a lot on my path, and I always, even if I don't come to you directly, I tap into the energy that you emit whenever I need guidance. So just thank you for being there for me personally, and just for doing what you do in terms of things that are for the betterment of yourself and for the betterment of this planet.
Right. I was thinking about us the other time. Sometimes I chase after you.
Yeah.
that one night that
that faithful night.
You're fast.
Yeah. Used to be.
You were fast.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that. Leave that to them to muse over.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. I normally have my guests start off with their first quote. I know you're still kind of ruminating on yours, so do you want to go, or I can go first?
Sure, I can go.
All right.
The quote that I'm contemplating this month is, "Your life isn't happening to you; it's happening for you."
Mm-hmm.
And that comes from a non-dual inquiry teacher named Byron Katie.
Mm-hmm.
It's where I heard it. I think it's a much older quote.
Yeah. And what does that quote mean to you? Why do you find that inspiring or powerful or interesting? What does it mean to you?
I find it's like an anchor that brings me back to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
When I get hijacked by negative thoughts, or shit happens.
Yeah.
Or that someone has landed something in my life that's big, and it's challenging my steadiness. I'll remember, okay, let's get our footing. Let's get the dance going right away by getting the dance step down, and this is the dance step. This is happening for you.
Right.
It may very well feel like this is happening to you. Like, this is not okay. I do not like what's going on here.
Sure.
It's just it's a very deeply grounding practice to remember somewhere this is happening for you. You invited this experience in, Robbie. So listen with 50-foot ears, for where this is happening for you.
Could you explain a little bit more about what that means to you, like the idea of something happening for you as opposed to you? Because I'm familiar with that concept, but not all of our listeners may be. So could you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the predominant viewpoint that we're taught here is largely based in victim consciousness.
Yes.
And, it makes sense. I mean, there are things that just happen out of the blue that, we lose money, we lose people from our life, we're treated unfairly. So in order to stay centered in a level of awareness where you're in your own individual power, it helps to have this perspective shift, this paradigm shift that it's really happening for you. On some level, even someone leaving your life is an opportunity, for you to grow.
Right.
For you to come back into the awareness of what's really going on in life, which is it's a process of inviting you to awaken deeper to who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And I find the more I approach life this way, this is happening for me. Spontaneous openings in the moment just reveal themselves.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. So last night I went to see a movie which is called Father Stew.
Okay.
If you haven't seen it, it's a great movie.
Father Stew. Okay.
And I can't remember the main actor's name. It's based on a true story.
Gotcha.
Incredible story. And I had a friend who wanted to see it with me, and we can have a bit of a cantankerous relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had plans to have dinner before the movie, and time's kind of constrained. And he's usually a real stickler for time. Like,
right.
If you show up late for him, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah.
So, I show up at the theater, and I'm waiting for him. 5 minutes go by, 7 minutes go by, and I text him, I'm here. And he writes back, running late. No, sorry, running late. I'm like,
yeah.
What's that about?
Right.
Back, dude. When I write you running late, you're like, well, what are you running late for?
Yeah.
And I go, wait a minute. All right, put this down. Okay, so if I continue to just stay in this loop with him, right, which I've watched happen before,
mm-hmm.
He messes up, I call him on it. I mess up, he calls me on it. It's just a loop.
Yeah.
And it can get heated. We've had weeks where we're like, I'm not talking to you. Well, I'm not talking to you either. So I put my phone down and I just said, all right, look, this is an opportunity. This is happening for you. It's like, why don't you give him what you always want from him, which is, hey, it'll work out. No problem. Thanks for letting me know. He shows up. And we didn't bring it up at all. Went and had dinner. But we're walking back from dinner. And something happened, which I've never had happen with this friend. And we've been friends for like 7 years. He turned to me and he goes, Ravi, I'm sorry for being such an asshole for so many times toward you. I'm like, wow. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And it's just true. And I really want to change. So I'm sorry. It's like, thank you. And I know I've done the same.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would have happened had I not paused and seen, okay, where's the for me-ness in this event?
Right.
But it is interesting that it happened. And it really started with me seeing, okay, how's this happening for you? And my reaction to him is the loop, right?
Right.
He's doing what he's doing, but I'm feeding it with, my own antagonism and judgment. So that's how I employ it. I really try to go through my day. If I get stuck in traffic, if something gets canceled, I really pause. I use that time to pause and really ask, okay, show me great reflection in the sky, great mirror of my state.
Yeah.
What's happening for me?
Yeah. I think that's a great story. I think that's really awesome that after, I think you said, 7 years of friendship, that kind of self-awareness can happen, and it sounds like it came from a very genuine place. I think that's really awesome. I think that, yeah, you're very right about those loops, those cycles. They can be for better or for worse. And I think that's a really great example because I think it shows how we can, something we've talked about, I think I got from one of your teachings, is how we can get cast into other people's stories. And I think that's a big thing to look out for. We also cast people in our own stories as well. And it's kind of natural because we all have our own stories, but it's good to be aware of how you're being cast in other people's stories, as the antagonist, as the helper, the whatever, so I think that's a really great example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, I've been on both sides of the lateness thing. There's been times I'll sit around for half an hour and I'm like, where is this person? And there's times where it's like, hey, you almost here? Yeah, I haven't even got out of bed yet. So, so I get it. But one thing I started to do is I'm just like, all right, if I'm going to meet somebody, I'm always going to bring a book. Always bring a book, and then that really helped me because it's like, I'll be sitting there waiting for them like a little early, sitting there reading the book, and it's like, even if they arrive like 20 minutes late, I'm just like, oh, right, you're here, awesome, cool. I'm just like, and instead of like sitting around like, oh, where are they? I'm taking responsibility for my own time and
Right.
emotional state and doing something I enjoy in the meantime,
Right.
instead of telling
Yeah.
myself, oh, they're
So,
wasting my time.
so there are two, practical teachings that we we get from these experiences. So these are how it's happening too.
Mm-hmm.
You're responsible, or I believe I am responsible for my
Mm-hmm.
time,
Right.
and I'm responsible for my emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge
Yeah.
to really consider how and why would we want to? Why would we want to be responsible for our emotional state? Why would we not want other
Mm-hmm.
people to just trigger that?
Right.
Many of us know the experience of just being, like a paper doll.
Yeah.
Somebody pulls your string and your arm goes up. Somebody pokes you in your ego and your ego flies off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eventually, we come to the realization of what emotions really are, which is energy in motion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if that energy is going into a pattern that we've enacted with many people, as children, we weren't aware of it. We weren't conscious of it. The law was still in effect.
Right.
We were channeling our energy in motion through our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, we have to become the caretakers of our own emotional state. And that means, that goes back to just a practical example that you gave, have a backup plan, have that book,
Mm-hmm.
and see the value of being in control of your own emotional state.
Yeah.
Nobody can give us that. We have to harness it ourselves. But once you start to see how good it feels,
Mm-hmm.
not to be on the yo-yo of other people's stuff,
Yeah.
life is really different experience.
Absolutely.
It's a great.
It is. It's really empowering when you essentially realize that the power only lies with you. It's very easy and it's very common for us to say things like positively, like, oh, you make me really happy, or negatively, oh, you make me really angry. Well, no, they don't have the power to do that. That's not how it works. It's a state you created within yourself in response or in reaction to whatever they might have done. But if it were that simple, I could cheer anybody up by saying something that I consider to be nice and kind, and that would work, and then they'd be happy. Or I could make the happiest person in the world angry by saying something I consider mean and hurtful. It doesn't work like that. It's a choice to make within themselves. It's just like, it's a big thing with like being offended. I've kind of gotten to a point where I try to be very conscious of the things that I say to people, and then if through that something still happens where they feel offended, as opposed to just saying like I'm sorry, I'm just like, well, I'm sorry to hear you feel that way. I'm sorry
Right.
to hear that you're choosing to be offended by that, as opposed
Right.
to considering what I may have been trying to elaborate. And I will take into consideration, okay, did I say that in a way where it's like I could have been more conscious of how I put it? Could I have put it in another way? For sure. It can be
Right.
a learning experience for both of us. I just think that, taking personal responsibility is a big thing for me at this point in my life that I try to encourage in others, because it's something that I do for myself. And I found that it really helps me, so I just try and speak my truth on that. Like with the
Beautiful.
book thing, it's not about the book. It could be playing a game on your phone. It could be just sitting and meditating, or listening to the birds. Like it's just about being present in the moment and recognizing you're in charge of the experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So that gives you that experience
Mm-hmm.
of being in charge.
Yeah, and it feels good. I mean, it also feels scary though. I won't lie on that. It, especially when you first get into it, and not to say it doesn't, you know, it depending on what it is and how it happens. Like the just being in charge of your life and really taking charge. And we live in a society where it's very commonplace to fall into that victim mentality. It can be very, very scary and overwhelming to just consistently take charge and take accountability for your life, especially when other people around you are not doing so. You can feel a little out of place, a little bit like an alien, but it's really the best thing for you, do or die. it falls with you. But if you choose to have that experience as a positive, even though it doesn't always feel comfortable, then it can offer, yeah, like you said, so much benefit. So many doors start to open.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Octavius, that
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes clients or students will bring up with me, well, but I have real feelings, about my spouse doing this.
Mm-hmm.
It's repeated,
Right.
and I don't want to just read my book and then go to dinner.
Right.
And one of the things that I've learned is it doesn't mean that we forego speaking to them, about the behavior.
For sure.
But it's not loaded. It's not loaded. The difference here is when we react, we're reenacting. We're reenacting a drama that's already happened in our life. Usually something that is when we were a child. So that's been proven now that every time we react in a situation, we are reenacting a drama that's already happened to us. So we're living in the past, so to speak.
A learned pattern.
A learned pattern, exactly. And we want to change that learning because we don't want to live out of patterns.
No.
Then, if we look at responsibility, my teacher, Guru Mai, uses this definition for it. Respond to your ability. Respond to your inner ability. You have a deeper ability that's not based in reactions. So what I'll tell people to do is, wait until, maybe dessert is coming, if you can, or until you're in a calmer space and you say, I don't mind showing up with the phone and the book, but I really wonder, what is it that stops you from calling me and saying, oh, I was wrong, I'm going to be 15 minutes late.
Right.
And I've had clients, myself included, say to a person, I don't feel safe with saying that to you. You lose your shit on me when I say something.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay. All right. I'm going to stay silent now.
Right.
All right. So it's muscle building. This is emotional muscle building. And if you can just continually see, because if you're this way in any area of your life, you're this way in every area of your life.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. If you can really find, okay, well, maybe you are. When someone says, I was wrong, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. Are you somebody who says, great, thanks a lot. Why did you do that? And you're flying. Then no wonder people might feel a little hesitant, to be honest with you, when that's happening. But what I've watched with people I've worked with and myself is when I can really just stay in the yoga of this, right? It's kind of what's called the yoga of relationships, because that's an active yoga.
Right.
Then you're pushing yourself further, and you're going to see this is a breakthrough for you. If you can really own this and see, okay, this is where you're leaning in today, it'll shift. It'll create a massive shift in every part of your life to see yourself as more open, more responsive, more connecting to other people.
Right.
I want to be that way. So I'm glad I didn't react last night, and call my friend out or anything.
Right. Right.
Just put the phone down. I love your idea. I would not necessarily recommend playing a game on your phone because it's just so close. That's another app. Since I'm here, it's tough.
It is.
Yoga.
It is tough. I think that's a special challenge that we have today. With the advancement of technology, I think it gets a bad reputation because there's obviously this increases in anxiety and all that stuff with social media and stuff like that. But it's just like I personally believe, just to touch on that for a quick second, is that cause and effect, or is that just kind of the revealing of the potential energy out there, the potential for the behavior, but more so to the point we're talking about, like the ability to literally instantaneously message somebody, whatever it is we're thinking or feeling, that is a lot of power. And it's, while it's incredible, like, we're in different parts of the country, we could be in different parts of the world, and we're able to do this right now, that's incredible. Yeah, but it's also a lot of power, so it's a particular challenge we have today, but that awareness and that knowing of the person that you want to be, that's powerful as well, and it can clearly, as you stated, it can win. It can win in these scenarios.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It could really. It has the potential of being a win-win for all of us, especially since if they're hundreds of miles away, yes, you can write immediately,
mm-hmm.
but you also have the blessing of that space.
Yeah.
So you could put the phone down.
Mm-hmm.
Sit with that experience inside of yourself. Look at the trigger. Own the trigger. It's mine.
Mm-hmm.
That's my trigger.
Right.
And then maybe an hour, maybe even 15 minutes later, wow, thank you so much. I just had a huge breakthrough. I see something in myself.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up triggers, because I think that's really important. We can learn so much from our triggers. Being triggered is a big thing that we talk about in our society, and I think the main thing is people try to avoid being triggered or point out when they're being triggered, acknowledging the experience, which is good. It's good to acknowledge the experience. Hey, I think it's kind of a in between of like acknowledging your emotional state and acknowledging someone's behavior. Like, hey, your behavior has triggered something for me.
Right.
And I think at that point, you have the choice to either take responsibility and do inquiry about it, or you can simply project onto the other person, what you're doing is wrong because it's caused this emotional response within me. You can take either route. But learning those triggers, being aware of them, and learning why they happen is super important. Like, it's not wrong to get upset with somebody. It's not wrong to be angry with somebody because of something that happened or something that they did. That's good. Now you have a chance to learn from it. Why am I angry? What about this makes me angry? Am I more angry than I should be? Am I not as angry? Am I not as angry as I should be? It's not about having the feeling. It's about how you express the feeling and how you move forward with it. I believe there are things that should provoke an emotional response from us one way or another, because we're emotional beings. It's a part of our natural power and our ability to express ourselves, and we live our lives through our emotions. It's just about, can you use them constructively? I was really angry, you were late. How can I assess this within myself? Maybe I need to learn to be less uptight, or maybe I should have expressed to you, oh, I was really short on time. I had things lined out in a certain way. I need to communicate better. Things like that. It offers so much ability, more doors open. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Good points.
Yeah. So the quote I have today is of a very similar sentiment. Let me make sure I got it. I want to say it correctly. It's not super long, but it's by Carl Jung. He's a psychologist and philosopher. One of my probably my personal favorite in that realm. He has a lot of great quotes. It is right. So Carl Jung, he says, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I chose to become." And I love that, because it's all about personal responsibility. The way I really like to think about this one recently is in terms of writing your own story. You can go through, things like suffering and trauma and negative experiences. And one way or another, I do believe, your past defines your present and defines your future in a sense. But it's all about how you write the story. Was that the precursor to your hero's journey? Was that the precursor to your thriving? Or was it the reason that you're stuck in your situation? Was it the reason you'll never get to where you want to be? You get to write that story for yourself. What happened, but you get to choose how it affects you, what the story is moving forward. on the last podcast I did, which I haven't put out yet, but we talked about this a little bit in terms of intimate relationships. A great quote that I brought up was by Drake, and he says, "Time left you with a broken heart, but that hardly excuses how you play with mine." It's like there's this horrendous idea in our society, like I've been hurt by people, life's been bad to me, and that's the reason I'm this way to others. And who the fuck cares? I don't like take some responsibility for yourself and do the work you need to do to become a better person. Just because other people hurt you doesn't give you an excuse or a free pass to be shitty to other people. It simply doesn't. We can be understanding and empathetic of that, like, yeah, because you don't necessarily know someone's story, but it's not an excuse,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, well, I was just sitting with a colleague this morning, and we were talking about the overlapping of two philosophies. The yogic philosophy that, your karma is primarily the patterns that you're healing from your lineage, from your family. And then she was countering with all of her work she's done on family systems theory and genealogy. Mm-hmm. And we were looking at, just patterns in our own life that we could see that was in my father's life and my mother's life and how they repeat themselves. So to a certain extent, our generational gap is clear here.
Yeah.
It really, I can tell you from my own experience, that's where it starts, right? Uh-huh. Who the fuck cares? Take responsibility for yourself. Change it. Change the story.
Right.
That's natural. Mm-hmm. At your age, that's the part of the journey.
Yeah.
And that will have an influence on future generations. I mean, think about that. Mm-hmm. That's your contribution to this genealogical journey.
Right.
That you are a part of. Your father was a part of it, and your grandfather, and your great-grandfather, and your great-great-grandfather, as well as your grandmother. But we were looking at, just how hilarious it is, that the pattern, it just shows up,
Oh, yeah.
Like, we'll do everything we can, to change ourselves. And our kids will say the exact same stuff to us that we said to our parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm different. I'm not him. you don't understand. Oh, I understand. All right.
Yeah.
You're exactly like your father. And it's peaceful to. Well, do me a favor. Read the quote again.
The quote is, "I'm not what happened to me. I'm what I chose to become."
So, what I find this awareness brings us to is a deeper listening to people in our life, and I think it's radically changing certainly my generation's experience of what relationships are about. That this new me movement, which has gone through time as well, is really helping young people see that nobody is here to make you happy. Your partner is not going to do that. Your children are not going to do that. No. But it's a huge, cultural expectation. Yeah. That we're all indoctrinated. We watch movies and TV shows, listen to podcasts where this is here. So, it's I like that quote because who am I going to become, in this moment with my partner?
Right.
Like if my partner is repeatedly late and I am triggered, can I just get quiet? Can I take a leap of faith and see if I just stay quiet, what questions arise up deeper from inside of me than just my mind? And how can I seek to understand versus being understood? Seek to understand more. And then that understanding just arises up inside of us. We come into contact. Oh my gosh, this is so weird. My father was late a lot. I watched my parents play this drama out. I don't want to play this out the way they did.
Yeah.
So you can literally become somebody in that moment that's new.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think that's because I like the way you put that, because I always think about it in terms of larger scale, like lifetime scale, kind of like who you become long term. But I think it obviously it does start in those moments. It's a moment to moment thing, and that's a great example. Like, okay,
Right.
in that example where somebody's late, there's a near infinite possibility of people that you can become in that moment. You can become the angry partner who causes a scene at a restaurant. You can become the partner who bottles up their emotions and turns into resentment against their partner. You can become that understanding partner who waits to talk it out at an appropriate time. You can be, there's so many different options available to you that you get to choose from. But even in the in between, kind of taking it more to the long term, it's like, even if you were that partner who decided to cause a scene at the restaurant because they got upset, and that's who you chose to become, that's not your fate now. Now tomorrow you can become that partner who acknowledges that behavior, acknowledges that wasn't the right time or right place, and decides to become that understanding partner who has that conversation.
Right.
And then maybe when it happens a month later, you'll repeat that cycle of coming back after making a scene, but either way, you still get the choice. And it may take you 1,000 times of that cycle to break it. But, each time you come back to that awareness, you're moving a little bit more forward in your development.
Right. Yeah. That leads me to my second quote. Ready to hear it?
Yeah, absolutely.
The present moment is the only time you can change what is not working in your life and maintain what is working in your life. The present moment is the only time you can change what is not working in your life and maintain what is working in your life. And that comes from my guru, Guru Mai. And I picked up on that, what you said.
Yeah.
You have that power, but only in the present moment.
Right.
The more present we are in that moment, we will literally see this is it. This is where it changes, or it doesn't. And I loved what you said. You could do this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Until you come to recognize the choice that you have. And I think this is very powerful in a world right now where we're being inundated with news every day that, there's so much we have no control over. What's happening in Ukraine, the environmental disaster, the economy. So it can leave a lot of people feeling very powerless.
Yeah.
But as you know, Octavius, I have a practice, which is called tracking.
Yes.
That when you do step into the present moment and change a pattern consciously, you will literally see that ripple through every part of your life. It's not just that one relationship. You will see it in your relationships at work. You'll see it on what comes on in the news.
Yes.
Next moment.
Yeah.
And you will recognize that, recognize. You will change your thinking. It will change your thinking.
Oh, I like that, recognize.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Where your power is.
Yeah.
How getting off this fucking pony show of news telling you stuff that, from people who, at least your generation is to say, we don't want old white guys telling us what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, guess who's putting all that news out for you? Old white guys. Don't be listening to them. That's their story.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's another generational thing. The fact that, like, there was a time where all your news was from the newspaper. Then all your news was from the news channels, and now it's to the point where you have near infinite access to everything, to everyone's opinion on everything, and everyone's reporting on everything, and you get to decide between this pool of information and knowledge what you're gonna focus on and what you are gonna take in as true. That's obviously, everyone who has internet access, has that ability. But yeah, my generation and the ones coming after, we really have a special ability and a privilege to grow up. Well, that's just always been a thing.
Yeah.
It's really incredible.
Yeah.
I want to.
And with that comes a responsibility, which
Yeah.
my generation really didn't have. And it's showing up a lot. Which news will you choose to listen to?
Mm-hmm.
Which station ideas are you going to take in? It's near impossible to take all of them in.
Yeah.
And if it truly is, if the quality of your life is determined by the level of conscious awareness you are in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
From that quote, the present moment is the only time you can change what's not working in your life and sustain what is working in your life. Then how we live, what choices we make in the present moment are the most important. And
mm-hmm.
it's a clean slate in every present moment. Our life is completely untouched.
Yeah.
The present moment. You can do it brand new.
It's unwritten. It's unwritten.
And that is tremendous power.
Absolutely.
Which I think is awesome to just contemplate.
Yeah, every conscious moment is a chance for a new beginning,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I find infinite compassion in what you said a few moments ago. Is, okay, so you may have to do this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
You may have to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Now look around you.
Yeah.
We've been holding meaningless, stupid wars for thousands of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
The leaders that we hire are doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, people. Let's look at where we're really at here.
Mm-hmm.
And we make space for them to do it.
Right.
So just make space for yourself to make a new choice as often as you can.
Absolutely. I think, especially like if you, even if you don't, or if someone rather doesn't believe in the idea of reincarnation, for their own personal truth, for those unfamiliar with the idea of reincarnation, it's the idea that we as individual people, our spirit or soul, will return to Earth, many, many, many lifetimes. Some people believe we come back as people each time, and some people believe that we may kind of move up or down through different like animals, insects, plants, or whatever. Some people believe there's choice in it. But the general idea is that, yes, we will come back to this planet for, perhaps thousands of lifetimes. If only to learn lessons that will allow us to transcend this experience and move on to something different, So
can I add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
Okay. So my primary teaching has been in two philosophies, Advaita Vedanta and Kashmir Shaivism. These are very ancient. Advaita Vedanta is the premier philosophy in this age. In other words, it predates Taoism, Confucianism.
Oh, wow, okay.
So in a particular region in India,
mm-hmm.
the original notion of reincarnation was moment to moment. It was what you just said a few moments ago.
Yeah.
And this is something that is happening now that, in a sense, we're dropping the yogic language, which I think is good,
mm-hmm.
because it's off-putting and it's related to concepts that aren't really applicable.
Right.
What Octavia said a few moments ago, that you might have to do this 1,000 times. Well, think about it.
Right.
You can either do it 1,000 lifetimes, or you could do it 1,000 times in a month, or in a week.
Yeah.
It's all dependent upon your level of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you bring your awareness to the present moment, the more you're willing to stay a student as the great yogic masters, advised, right?
Mm-hmm.
Always stay a student.
Yeah.
You'll catch yourself. Yeah, you'll beat yourself up some saying, damn it, I did it again.
Yeah.
But Britney Spears wrote a whole song about that. Oops, I did it again. She's a millionaire, so, it's not going to be too bad. But the more you catch yourself, you'll see reincarnation happening throughout your day.
Yeah. That
you will see that just making the slightest change, just apologizing to your partner. Mm-hmm. I just yelled at you, didn't I? Yeah, you did. Shit. Well, I'm going to apologize, and here it comes again. I'm going to do it, all right? You were an idiot, and you did mess up. And you're just doing that, you're going to notice changes happening in your life, in your outer world. You're going to see more coincidences, synchronicities, timetables change. You may walk out of a restaurant where you lost it with your partner.
Yeah.
And your mother will text you, and you'll remember in that moment when you were a child and you watched your parents do what you just did in that restaurant. And you will be open to it. You'll be in a level of witness consciousness. You'll be fascinated, like you're watching a movie. These are the current and ancient, reflections on reincarnation.
Yeah.
We're doing it every day. We wake up, and the option is, what are you going to do? You're going to live it like you did yesterday. Because you died when you went to sleep, and now you're awake. And how are you going to live it? How are you going to live this day? So that's a more accurate yogic interpretation of it, and I'm just so glad that more and more people are experimenting with it, playing with it. That every day is another life.
Right. Absolutely.
If not every.
Yeah, I saw this great quote on I think it was on Instagram a while back. It's it's a cartoon and the characters are talking and they say what was it? One of them was like, they say what was it? Because it's a play on a conventional quote. You only live once, and the character was like, no, you live every day. You only die once. And I thought that was really powerful to me, and I think that kind of ties into what you're talking about. Like, every moment, every day you wake up, it's a chance for another life. You can.
Well, and if you are, I don't know if you've come across the theories of the simulation theories.
Oh, absolutely. I've been down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Then the whole thing is somehow just a simulated, projection.
Right.
Be it a movie, a multi-dimensional movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're replaying it in every moment, and the more you get on those patterns, the more you become aware that the hardest ones are the ones that you did see your parents do. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That you did see your grandparents do.
Yeah.
Because they're deeply embedded in our consciousness. The more compassion you can have on yourself, the more you will see the openings out of it. So this is where the virtues of spiritual traditions are very helpful. Compassion, kindness, tolerance. Mm-hmm. Whoa, do we need tolerance in our life right now? These become very active tools in from your toolkit. If you're going to live thinking, okay, this is it. This is my only moment. Mm-hmm. This is your shot. How are you going to play it? How are you going to do this? And the truth is, we are responsible. We can't.
Oh, yeah.
We can blame victim consciousness, but we're the ones who did it. Yep. Either the reaction or the projection.
Right.
And we're responsible for that. It'll be around again.
Absolutely. One quote that keeps coming to mind as we're talking about this is a Lil Wayne quote. He says, "Life is a movie, but sometimes I get too tired of watching and walk out." And I think when I started doing like the bring a book thing and things like that, like, and I started kind of settling into the now. It's like when you're aware of your own cycles, you start to become aware of other people's cycles, and life does kind of start to look like a movie, especially if you ever just like stand on a high building, watch the cars go by, the people walk by day after day, and people, arguing with their coworkers or their spouse day after day. It's just like, I've seen this movie before. I've seen this movie before. Yep, and then she's gonna say this, and then he's gonna do that. Oh, and then okay, yep, then he's gonna storm off. Yep. And then, but when you do it with yourself, I think that's when you can start to have a bit of grace about it, and a bit of humor about it, and then that can translate to your relationships with other people. But I really like that quote because it's like, that was a big part for me of getting out of a lot of toxic cycles with myself and with other people. It was just like, I'm tired of this movie. I'm tired of this show. I'm gonna do some rewrites, do some editing to the script.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You can see to just walk out of the movie.
Yeah.
Just because you paid for it, you don't have to stay.
No.
You don't have to stay.
Nope.
We used to sneak into other theaters.
Yeah.
I don't like this one. I'm going next door.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy taking the tickets, to turn his back, and whoop, sneak in.
Yeah.
Go to a different movie.
That's a great metaphor for life. It's just like, hopping into a different movie. I don't like this scene. I don't like this setting. I don't like these characters. All right, let me go over here. What's this story about? Ooh, okay, I like this one. This one's got mystique and all, romance. Yeah, switch it up.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's a great remedy.
Yeah.
Go to a different movie.
Yeah.
Or stay out of all of them. Just observe,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think
we have this capacity to simply, stay in this neutral state all the time. We do not have to engage. We are naturally compassionate and present and quiet. For some of us, it's taken a long, long time for me to just come into a lived expression and experience of that.
Mm-hmm.
But its nature is to live, not for yourself. It's to live, for others. There's a great movie. It's good for men. It's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
With Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay.
And there's this great scene where Brad Pitt he's a kind of he's just an assistant to an actor. And he used to be a great, he was an actor himself.
Uh-huh.
And he did a lot of things. And he's on top of somebody's roof, he's a stuntman. And he's fixing this guy's roof, and he's pausing for a moment. He's thinking, how did I get here? How did I get to the point where this is what I'm doing with my life? I'm fixing somebody's roof. This wasn't my path all along. And they show all these scenes then where he's just acting out on other people. He's angry, and he acts out on people. And he's angry, and he acts out on people. And then they just come back to him standing on the roof, and he's looking towards the sun, and he looks into the camera, and he goes, Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I am where I am.
Yeah. That's powerful.
I think that really coming out of these movies, we're invited to look at, how did you get here? How did you put yourself here?
Mm-hmm.
What attitudes, behaviors, actions did you take to end up where you are?
Yeah.
And take ownership for that. That's how we change it.
Mm-hmm.
Is we just find, okay, here I am. This is how I got here, and this is where I am. And then we can really make use of the present moment.
For sure.
And change the script, man. Change the script altogether.
Oh yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. So I have one more quote I wanna get your take on before we head out for the day. And I think this one's good because we do have, a generational gap between us. This one is also by Carl Jung. he says, life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research.
I've heard that one. That's good.
Yeah. I really like that one. Obviously, being 24 myself, I don't know how true that'll end up being for me. Not yet. But I think I really like the sentiment behind it. You know, I think 40 is kind of an arbitrary number. I'm sure in his time that was closer to like old age for sure.
Right.
But I really like the sentiment of it. I think that, and it's great. I think for people to hear, especially in today's world, because there's so much access to information and knowledge, and the ability to reinvent yourself and write your own story is more possible now, I believe, than ever before in human history. I'm not a historian. I can't necessarily validate that, but I don't think most people would disagree with that just because there's so much possibility, obviously depending on where you live and circumstances, things like that. But I think just in general, the ability to find a new way of life, to find out that, oh, the way you've lived your entire life in terms of beliefs and views, there's things that completely are outside of what you've ever even thought possible, and there's people who live their lives that way, and you can explore, you can find communities, whether they be in person or online, and find all kinds of support and people like yourself who it's like, you will help show people how to discover what they want their life to look like and then help them build it. I think that, and you don't have to have it figured out at 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. You don't have to have it figured out ever. But giving yourself that grace of just kind of like, I'm just living, I'm discovering, I'm evolving. What I say today, how I live my life this year, next year, 5 years, could be completely different. It could contradict entirely how I lived my life a year or 5 years ago. And I think that's the beauty of it. So how do you feel about that?
I have a question. How old is Lil Wayne now?
Lil Wayne, I think mid-late 30s. I think he's like 36, 37.
Okay. So he's headed there. He's closer to 40 than he is to 30.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're right that when Carl Jung was that age, there was a lot of societal expectations and pressures, identities placed on people. There wasn't a lot of, at least in conventional culture, space for self-awareness and self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the forerunners to bring that into our world. So, no, I like what you say. One of my prime teachers, Ram, used to give us this challenge. He'd say, okay, well, then just do it. Then just park it. Sit down and say, I'm not getting up. I'm not getting involved in this movie anymore. I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to eat potato chips and I'm checking out. I don't want to be a part of it, so I'm not going to be. He said, eventually you're going to get hungry. You're going to get up. You're going to go to the refrigerator to see what's in there. You're going to use the bathroom. Your cell phone's going to ring. You're going to answer it, and you're back in the movie. So my take on it is, how much can you be in the movie without being of the movie? To play your role. Yeah. And there's a great story of Sir Laurence Olivier. I think he did Hamlet in England, at the oldest theater in England. He got 3 standing ovations. He came off stage. When he finally could get away, he went down to his dressing room. His dresser came into the room and said, "Oh, sir, that will go down in history. This is the greatest Hamlet ever done. Nobody has ever done it that way. Nobody will do it that way." Yes, I know. Leave me alone, please. And he said, "Sir, I can't get out the door. The reporters, your fans, they're all out there." And he turned and he said, "Leave me alone." And the man said, "I don't understand. Why are you so upset?" And he goes, "Don't you understand? I don't know who that was out there. I don't know that man at all.
Ooh.
Where did he come from?"
I like that one. That's chilling.
So that, I feel like, is an experience that we can open to finally now. We can, your take on dropping the age barrier. How can you be so fully present in these podcasts? How can we be so fully present in an argument with someone and reach for being more authentic? And if that includes you're going to lose it and you're going to scream your bloody head off in a restaurant, okay, then have at it, but do it in a way that you've never done it before.
Yeah.
Open to a level of awareness that just can pour through you.
Right.
And see what that feels like. How can we find those moments that Laurence Olivier stumbled upon? And just obviously, his work made, space for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's available, to all of us. And I think technology is giving us those repeated reminders, not just with superstars like it did when I was growing up, the rock musicians and the athlete.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But now you get to see prodigies, you get to see children doing amazing things, you get to see teenagers doing things on skateboards, bikes, and you doing this podcast that's just, it's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. You're phenomenal.
Thank you.
So making that, going for that experience of getting ourselves, as Will Smith said in The Legend of Bagger Vance, it's all about getting yourself out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
Let it pour through you.
Yeah.
And see, astound yourself. Just astound yourself. Mm-hmm. So that if you hurt someone, you hurt them, but nobody ever hurt somebody that bad.
Yeah.
Heal someone. Nobody ever healed anybody like that.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about as an embodied awakening, right?
Right.
It's an embodied awakening to the moment. And it takes being fully in that moment as much as you possibly can, which that's what I take from the story. He lost himself. Mm-hmm. And that's deep. That's profound. That's truly amazing.
That is. I think that's really incredible. I really like that. I really like that story.
I remember a lot of stories.
Yeah, I honestly, I can relate a little bit because after a certain point, after I kind of started going on this path of self-awareness and evolution, like at a young age, I started getting to the point where I would go on rants. I would lash out at people. I would, I just have these very just like, not necessarily uncharacteristic, but just have these moments where I'm just like, I'm on my own loop. No one else involved. I'm doing my monologue. I'm just on a loop about whatever it is I'm apparently so passionate about in that moment. And then it was sort of like a blackout moment, like, because you're just like there, and then finally when it's over, you're like, oh, okay, here I am. I just did this thing. And then at a certain point, it got to the point where it's almost like an out-of-body experience as opposed to blacking out. It's like, it feels like it's like happening. Like I'm kind of like on autopilot, but I'm like watching myself at the same time. It's like I just moved from like the like mental driver's seat to the passenger seat. And I'm like, dude, really? Like, what the hell are you even going on about? All right, cool. I'll just wait till you give me the wheel back. I guess we'll deal with this then.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And what's it feel like to know you don't have the power to take that wheel away from him?
It's I would say it's actually empowering in a way, because it's gotten to the point now where I don't, like, yeah, there were times where, I'm not saying I never get upset with people or anything, but I don't lash out at people the way I might have when I was younger, So when those moments happen, it's very different. And if it's coming from a place of like being upset or angry, like at a particular situation or somebody, it's now more of a thing where I'm expressing how I'm not going to allow myself to be in this state. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to take my power and move on. And it's almost like like a second self comes out and is like, look, clearly, it's almost like the yin and yang. It's like the yang says to the yin, look, I understand this is not your area. I got this one. I'll deal with this situation. You take the most of the situations. I'll get us out of this nonsense. You deal with the happy, bright stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's evolution, because I can say at 50, I was still doing that. I was still being hijacked by what are called in yoga samskaras.
What are they called? Can you repeat that?
Samskaras. They're the impressions. They are what are actually reincarnating. You, that witness in the passenger seat, you don't reincarnate. Where would you reincarnate to? You're just watching the movie. So these are the actors that play themselves out. Life after life after life. These samskaras, they're called in yoga. Impressions. And this is what it takes. It takes witness consciousness to step back and look at it and see it in motion.
Yeah.
And truly, this is what evolution is. It's right here. Because, at your age, you have this awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have a family, you choose to partner and you have kids, you may discover less ability because there's certain combinations that, can enact them. But it doesn't matter. I mean, ultimately, it's genetic. We now know as well. The genes are influenced by the level of awareness. Your children, you changed your own genetic makeup. Yes. And we know this is true now. Dr. Bruce Lipton wrote an incredible book called Biology of Belief, where you have children that they've watched, since they were in the embryo, acting out patterns that have nothing to do with the situation that they're in later in life, that they were exposed to when they were teeny tiny little embryos.
Right.
And we know that the DNA can change. It does change. No longer the golden calf that it was. When I was your age, it was locked down. DNA, nothing changes. It's the same. It's not true. Never was true. So this is great to have you share this, Octavius, because this is what true evolution is. And this is why it's so important not to get so involved in news reports about what's happening in the outer world. That's really just getting pulled into the movie again. And the only part of that they really are speaking to is, very limited range of human emotional capacity. Fear, anger, fear, anger.
Yeah.
There's more coming out with compassion, that we're being exposed to.
Sure.
Nicer. I was your age.
Yeah.
So it is all about evolution, but this is just so great to hear that you have this awareness. You are aware of awareness. You're in the passenger seat. You're watching. You cannot stop that pattern, but you can reflect on it. That's what I heard you say. You took it in. You said, well, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to remove myself from these movies. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
And that's us. I mean, that's the new story of us right there. You're showing it to us.
Yeah.
It's a movie. Everything we're watching on television, folks, it's entertainment. All right. You pay to go see people killed. Well, you don't see that. You don't have to pay to see what's happening in the Ukraine. Ultimately, if you can see your own inner state and the stories that are playing on as entertainment, as episodes.
Oh yeah.
You're watching. Is where it shifts.
Yeah, I mean that's even. I think that's even a psychological term. Like, oh, someone's having an episode. Like that's an actual psychological term. But it's interesting the way we use that, right? Yeah.
It is. It is. I think it says something about our entire shift, that movies are becoming less and less, which is that's all there really was when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple of television shows, but
Yeah.
shifting now to just episodes, even our movies, the Marvel episodes.
Oh yeah. They're 2 hour long episodes. That's really what it is. Yeah.
That's what it is. So you've nailed it. We're coming into this self-reflective state where we're saying, wait a minute, this is my episode.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how are you going to play it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to play it any different than you did yesterday? I don't know if you ever saw the movie Pleasantville.
Pleasantville. Oh, it sounds super familiar. What's it about?
Yeah. It's about a kid, Tobey Maguire, who's in love with this television show. And it's a 1950s television show.
Uh-huh. And
he's a wizard at it. And he enters a contest, to answer all these questions about the television show. Yeah. And he wins.
Uh-huh.
And what he gets is a pass to get into the television show. And he takes it.
Yeah.
He literally goes into the TV show. He lives his life in the TV show. His sister ends up coming along with him just because she holds onto the remote and she ends up there. Yeah. And they're in Pleasantville.
Yeah.
And then what happens in Pleasantville when these people come there? How the entire TV show starts to change. People start having awakenings.
Oh man, that's super trippy. That's breaking the fourth wall, man.
From the fact that it's in black and white.
Yeah.
The show originally starts out in black and white, but as the changes start happening to the different characters and the different relationships and everything, colors start showing up in the TV show.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is, whoever directed that, that's incredible. Outstanding.
Yeah. So, we're bringing some more color. You're definitely bringing some more color to our TV shows.
Yeah.
To our episodes. I love that. Now I'm going to have to ask my social work student who just got my roommate, what's an episode in social work therapy?
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I love, man. Spark the conversation.
It is awesome. This is transmission.
Yeah.
Octavius, thank you for having me. This is great.
Thank you for joining me, Ravi. This has really been incredible, as I knew it would be. Our conversations are always fantastic, and that's what the podcast is about. It's just having good conversation, exploring new ideas, and sharing knowledge, and hopefully people enjoy listening to it.
Right on. Clearly.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today for the latest episode of Notable Quotables. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, all the places you can get podcasts. Ravi, do you want to plug in any websites or social media or anything?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook as Ravi Walsh. Heartpath is my handle on Instagram. I'm in LinkedIn, and my website is heartpathme.com.
All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
All right. Thank you, Octavius.
Thank you, Ravi.